Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the incredibly fascinating world of cryptography. We're going to see how an ancient human practice, one literally born out of the need for power, supremacy, and politics thousands of years ago, evolved to become the invisible shield that protects our digital lives every single day. So, if you've ever wondered how your private messages actually stay private, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's jump right in.
Okay, so let's kick things off by acknowledging the complex modern landscape. You've probably heard tech circles throwing around terms like symmetric key cryptography, asymmetric key cryptography, or hash functions. These are essentially the heavy hitters of today's digital security. But, before we can truly appreciate those advanced techniques, we really need to peel back the layers and understand the basic foundations that make all of them possible.
To truly get a handle on this, our roadmap today covers 4 core chapters. First, defining the art of secrecy. Second, the language of cryptography. Third, ancient roots of secret codes. And fourth, modern goals and services. Let's start with Chapter 1, Defining the Art of Secrecy. I love how cryptography pioneer Phil Zimmermann frames this field. He perfectly captures the idea that this is a rigorous, exact mathematical science, but also a highly creative art form. Think about it. You need immense mathematical precision to build the lock. But you also need brilliant creative ingenuity to design a lock that an attacker just cannot outsmart. Building right on that thought, renowned security expert Bruce Schneier emphasizes a really crucial angle. He points out that the whole objective here is actively introducing secrecy. Our computer networks and hard drives aren't inherently secure on their own, right? Cryptography is the deliberate, active process of injecting that secrecy into our otherwise entirely vulnerable systems. That brings us to Chapter 2, the language of cryptography.
So before we go any further, we need to know the lingo. At the absolute core of all this is a fundamental transformation. Everything starts with your plain text. That's just your normal, totally readable data. Then a process called encryption alters its very substance to hide it, magically turning it into ciphertext. Now, ciphertext looks like absolute gibberish to anyone without authorization, and turning that scrambled mess back into readable plain text, that's decryption. Now, to make that transformation happen, we use something called a cipher. But a cipher isn't just randomly jumbling things up. It is a highly specific mathematical algorithm. Think of it as a strict series of well-defined steps that you follow as a procedure. It basically acts as both the lock to secure the plaintext and the key to unlock the ciphertext.
When you put all these interconnected pieces together, you get what's known as a cryptosystem. A basic cryptosystem relies on a few things: your plaintext, your encryption and decryption algorithms, the resulting ciphertext, and of course the vital encryption and decryption keys. Implementing this entire infrastructure is exactly what provides us with robust security. But, there's a flip side to this coin. While cryptography is the science of securing data, cryptanalysis is the science of trying to break those secure communications. Cryptanalysts are essentially the attackers. They use analytical reasoning, math, pattern matching, immense patience, and honestly, a bit of luck to crack the codes. And the big umbrella term that covers both the makers of the codes, cryptography, and the breakers of the codes, cryptanalysis, is cryptology. Moving right along to Chapter 3, Ancient Roots of Secret Codes. Now, you might naturally picture cryptography as something invented by modern hackers hunched over glowing monitors, but it's actually a deeply ancient human instinct. We can see its roots firmly planted in early Egyptian, Indian, and Roman civilizations. It was entirely driven by this timeless need for people to communicate secretly with very specific recipients. In fact, the absolute earliest known evidence we have doesn't involve computers at all. It's actually found in Egyptian hieroglyphs. We're talking 4,000 years ago, when Egyptians were already intentionally altering their hieroglyphic messages to hide information and communicate in secret. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, around 400 BC, cryptography popped up in a very different context. The Kama Sutra actually described cryptographic methods. The goal there was to teach women how to hide their secret messages. The technique was pretty clever. They would randomly pair letters of the alphabet and then substitute each letter in the original message with its designated partner. The random pairing of the alphabet itself acted as the secret key. Fast forward to the Roman Empire, and we meet Julius Caesar. Now, Caesar needed a highly reliable way to protect messages of immense military importance from falling into enemy hands. If his messengers were captured on the battlefield, he absolutely had to guarantee his battle plans couldn't be read by the enemy. His solution, which we now refer to as the Caesar shift cipher, was elegantly simple but incredibly effective for its time. It just relied on shifting the letters of a message by an agreed number. Caesar usually went with a shift of 3, so A becomes D, B becomes E, and so on. The recipient just shifted the letters back by that exact same number to get the original message.
To really see the Caesar shift in action, let's use a modern example. Let's say our plain text is Internet Society Ghana chapter. If we apply Caesar's rule and shift every single letter down the alphabet, it completely transforms the phrase into the ciphertext you see here. It just becomes an unreadable jumble of letters. It perfectly demonstrates how a crypto system takes something meaningful and obscures its substance entirely. Finally, let's wrap up with Chapter 4, Modern Goals and Services.
Today, obviously, our battleground isn't a Roman messenger traveling on horseback, it's our computer networks. Cryptography's primary job today is basically acting as a secure digital tunnel. It exists to lock down important data resting locally on your hard disk or to protect it as it flies across highly vulnerable mediums like the public internet.
And to achieve that goal, modern cryptography delivers 4 vital services. First up is confidentiality, which is your basic secrecy. Second is integrity, acting as an anti-tampering mechanism. Third is authentication, verifying exactly who the sender really is. And lastly, non-repudiation, which mathematically proves that a specific sender absolutely did send the message and simply cannot deny it later.
Let's zoom in on the 2 heaviest lifters here. On one side, we have confidentiality, which guarantees that absolutely no one can read the message except your intended receiver, keeping it completely secret even if intercepted. On the other side is integrity. This gives the receiver mathematical assurance that the message hasn't been altered, manipulated, or tampered with during transit. Not one single byte has been changed.
So, that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to wrap up this explainer. We've seen that this human desire to hide information is over 4,000 years old. It survived the Roman Empire and transitioned beautifully right into the internet age. But as we stand on the brink of crazy new technologies, how will these mathematical shields evolve to survive the supercomputers and quantum attackers of tomorrow? It's a literal game of cat and mouse that has been playing out for millennia. And honestly, the next chapter is just beginning. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the foundations of cryptography.